Most of you are probably familiar with what we call a potato bar, but today we're going to show you how to do a potato bar in the crock pot. Hello friends, and welcome to Let's Cook Together. I'm your host Jill Morricone, and we're excited about the program that we have planned for you today. I have a special guest, a friend of mine here from Michigan. Welcome, JoAnn.
Thank you, Jill.
Your name is JoAnn Rachor.
Rachor, that's right.
Tell our friends at home just a little bit about your ministry and what you do before we get cooking today.
Well, started out probably almost 25 years ago, where my husband and I did some traveling. And we would teach cooking classes in different states and a lot of different cities. We spent like 5 months in Florida one time.
Are you
It was a great way to spend the
serious?
winter.
Oh, I would like that.
Except it was a lot of work.
Yes.
Anyway, we just traveled all over and taught cooking classes. And so it's just grown since then. And actually I started before I met him, but then when he and I got to do it together, it was fun.
That's fun. It's always nicer to work with someone too. I like that. Now, your husband's a pastor now, so you have more of a stable job. You're not traveling as much? Or? Right.
I don't really travel quite so much. I have a business at home.
Okay.
And so, you know, that keeps me there too.
Yes. What do you do with your business?
Well, I'm a publisher. I sell books, and I have several different titles of books on cooking and natural remedies that I sell.
Oh, that's neat. Now, you have a couple cookbooks yourself, right?
That's right.
That's right. What cookbooks do you have?
Well, the one that I've had for a long time, since the 80s, is Of These You May Freely Eat. And then the one that has just been out for about a couple years or less is Fast Cooking in a Slow Cooker Every Day of the Year.
That's neat. That's like crock pot recipes, right?
Yep.
Now, these are the recipes that we're going to be talking about today.
Yep.
You're baking a potato in
That's right. Yeah, we're going to use recipes actually from both books.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about some simple toppings that you can put on potatoes. So we're going to show how to do the potatoes in the crock pot, but we're going to start out with 3 different toppings that come from the Freely Eat cookbook.
And then we'll move into the crock pot. How did you even get interested in doing crock pot cooking?
Well, it started I would say about 6 years ago, and my husband suggested I work on a new cookbook, and so I decided that it was going to be on slow cooking.
That's
neat. And actually it ended up being such a major production for me, because I found that, you know, pots all cooked differently, and in fact in the beginning I would put one pot into the same outlet, different pots, and I couldn't understand, why is this taking 8 hours in this one pot, and I'd plug in another one to the same outlet, and in this one it takes 6 hours. I thought, oh, my electrical system is not working right.
Right.
But then I soon discovered it was my pots that they're not all created equally.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what started.
That's neat. That's even kind of like your oven. I mean, if you put stuff in the oven, some people say put it at 350, and maybe my oven it would burn, and maybe yours it wouldn't burn, or something. So there's variation in that.
There is variation.
Wow, that's been quite an experience.
And then it took me probably, with the slow cooker book, it was about 5 years of working on it, and most of that time I was taking care of my mother, who was in our home with us, and she had Alzheimer's. And you know, but it was precious. It was very special, and I would not have had anything different about it. I just thank the Lord that I could have her with us, and then I had this prayer right along that, you know, that I could get through this book, because it just seemed like it was taking forever. And I just prayed that I could have it done before my mom died, because she was really going downhill, and it just so the Lord worked it out so that the day before she died, I got my first shipment of books. So He answered my prayer, and we had her death was very special to me, very peaceful.
Right, that's good. Instead of suffering, that's a blessing. Yeah. Okay, well, let's make our toppings. We're starting with our toppings, right?
We're going to start with a Tasty Sesame Topping.
Okay, you want to read that recipe for us?
Sure, and so for the ingredients, you want 1 cup of toasted sesame seeds, 1/4 cup of yeast flakes, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder.
All right, that's nice and easy. I like that. Yes, all right.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is first I want to tell you how to toast your sesame seeds. And you want to use like a skillet that's dry, that you're going to toast them dry, either in a skillet or a saucepan. You don't want to use a skillet that has like a nonstick topping, or
so you wouldn't want to use a Teflon coated or
no,
something
you really
like
wouldn't, because I guess the dry heat, it produces some fumes, and it can just be a little bit toxic.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So it's better to use a stainless steel type pan.
Right. Okay.
And so they take maybe 5 or 10 minutes on about a medium-high heat to get a nice golden brown.
Would you want to stir them, or
yeah, you should
keep
stir
them from burning?
Yeah, but they'll toast pretty quickly.
Okay, good.
And then you're going to put your sesame seeds in the blender.
Now these are already toasted then?
So these are toasted ones.
Okay.
And then the yeast flakes, sometimes it's called nutritional yeast, sometimes called food yeast, sometimes Red Star, but it gives a really nice, it's not brewer's yeast, which is more bitter in flavor. So the food yeast gives it a nice cheesy flavor.
For our friends at home, they could get that in the health food store? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Health food store. All right.
And then there's our garlic and onion and some salt. And so the idea here is that you're just going to put it in the blender and grind it up.
There's no water?
Nope.
Okay.
You just want
it's
this
just a dry topping
that you're going to sprinkle on.
Okay.
And it's almost done. You can see that there's still a few seeds in there, but you just keep grinding it up, and then it's really nice and smooth.
Okay.
And,
so you would wait until the seeds are totally ground. You don't want pieces and stuff like that.
Well, even if you had a few pieces, it's
not
good.
the end of the world.
Yeah,
okay.
it's good.
Well,
I mean,
like
toasted sesame seeds are delicious. They really are.
I can smell it.
Yeah, and you can use, these were the white ones, the ones with the hulls taken off, but you can use the white ones or the brown ones. The brown ones would have a higher calcium level to them.
Oh, I didn't even know they had calcium.
Yeah,
So that's good. Yeah.
So.
Good. Okay, what topping are we making next for our potato
for
bar?
the next one would be our tofu sour cream.
Good. For our tofu sour cream, you need 1 package Morinu tofu firm, the 12.3 ounce size, 1/3 cup raw cashews, 1/3 cup water, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 teaspoon onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon garlic powder.
Okay, Jill, now we're going to make a tofu sour cream, another topping for our potato bar.
And I think it's important to know how to do tofu sour cream.
Yeah.
You know? Because sour cream, it's so easy to get in the store and stuff, but maybe that's not necessarily the healthiest. So it's good to have an alternative that tastes good.
Okay, well, great. Well, we're just going to put all the ingredients right in the blender, and if you want to start out with your tofu, and I like to use the... this is a Morinu, that's the brand name, but it needs to be a silken type tofu.
Okay.
Because it'll just give a smoother consistency at the end.
You don't want, say, the water pack type of tofu that you can get in the grocery store, and it's more
people will
beany.
do that sometimes, and that's okay, but this gives a really nice smooth consistency.
Okay, good.
So we'll just put all of our ingredients in, our water, and these are some raw cashews. And then you can use, the lemon juice can be fresh or it can be canned. Fresh tastes really nice, but
it does.
I don't a lot of times use that.
Right. It's convenience too, you know. There's our salt.
Salt, and then the onion and the garlic powder.
Okay.
Now the key with this is that, especially when you're using this type of tofu, is that you want to blend it for a long time. If you'll blend it past the stage of smoothness, because of course you want the cashews to get smooth while it's blending.
Yeah, true.
But if you'll keep blending this for like a couple minutes, this type of tofu will make a lighter texture to it. Yeah, it'll lighten up, and it's really a nice...
So the longer you blend it, then the lighter it gets?
Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah, okay.
So,
okay,
let it
good.
rip.
High, medium, low?
Start out low, and then you can turn it up.
Now, do you stir it, or?
Well, you don't stir it unless it needs to.
Okay.
And since it's still going through the blades, I just let it go.
Right, okay.
But if an air pocket develops in there, then I'll stop and I'll stir it.
Try to work on that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're like me and you have a blender like my blender at home, then maybe you'd have to blend it quite a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's really all there is to it. And you know, and I have found sometimes people ask me how long do these things keep, and what I have found is as a way that I do things at home is that I'll put these, like maybe the sour cream, I'll put it in a couple of different containers so that I keep one in the refrigerator until the first one is empty. Oh. And that way, you know, these will keep for easily a week and a half to 2 weeks. It's just when we take things out and set them on the counter or, you know, on the table and let them sit there for an hour, and maybe we've cleared the table afterwards, but the food's still sitting there, that then things spoil more quickly. But you can easily keep this. Okay. You know, if your refrigerator temperature is at a good temperature, you know, it'll last.
Right. So you're saying then you wouldn't want to serve all the tofu sour cream on the table at once.
Not unless
keep
you
some
think
back,
your
unless you're going to eat it all.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Well, that's neat. Yeah, I like that. Good. All right, what's our next topping that we're going to put on?
The next topping is going to be our quick corn sauce.
Good.
And with the quick corn sauce, we use 1 can, which is like about a 15-ounce can of whole corn with the juice. And then we're going to have 1/4 cup of coconut and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, Jill, we're going to start here with a quick corn sauce. Ooh, and I'm going to show you how quick this is. And so we have this is a can of corn.
Okay.
It's corn that's been canned with the salt in it. If you want to lower your salt intake, then just use the salt-free kind.
Could you use frozen corn too, or fresh corn on the cob, or not really?
I do have another recipe where I use frozen or fresh. Okay. But if you want to use it with this, because the main difference here is that I'm using some coconut, you can just cook your corn.
Okay.
And then then you can use it. And so that was some coconut and salt. And that's all we...
That's it?
That's it.
I like that. That's my kind of recipe. Nice and easy.
But you'd be surprised how really nice this tastes.
Yes.
And that's almost done. I would blend it for a little bit longer, but it doesn't take long to blend up corn, you know. It's pretty soft.
I can see. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our sauce. And now what we're going to do is we're going to transition a little bit into the things that we're going to put these toppings on that we've made.
Right.
The sesame topping and the tofu sour cream. And so what we're going to start with are some sweet potatoes.
Learn how to use our crock pot.
There we are. We're going back to the crock pot.
Yes. All right, we have a crock pot here.
Yep. And so this...
Anything special about this crock pot?
Nope, nothing special about it. You can use any size that you want. And what we're going to, as I said, we're going to start with sweet potatoes or commonly yams is another common term for them. And I like this because you can make delicious sweet potatoes this way. You know, I've made them in the oven, and I've kind of had a mess in the pan, you know. I don't know if you've had that problem.
All the time. And then my husband Greg's like, oops, I better clean. So he's so sweet he doesn't. But yeah, it makes a mess.
So like with this way, you don't have any mess. It cleans up so easily.
That's nice.
And when the potatoes are done, they come out with a nice firm skin, but the inside stays bright orange.
And the inside's soft too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the inside's really nice and soft. Now, I prefer to do them on high. That's the way you keep the best color with your sweet potatoes.
Oh, instead of doing it on low.
Right. Okay. And so it's kind of a fast project, but you can set a timer for this.
Yes.
Like I had talked about earlier on a different show, that you can use one of these lamp appliance timers.
Where could you get one of these timers?
In a hardware store, in a department store. There's a lot of varieties of different appliance timers. And they're pretty inexpensive. You can get them for $10 or $15.
You just go in and ask for a lamp appliance timer.
And you just don't want to have a crock pot without one.
Right. Well, I have a crock pot without one, so I better go out and buy myself a lamp appliance timer.
Hey, you know, some people buy the pots that are called programmable.
Okay.
But I like to use an appliance timer because then I can make my pot programmable. And I can have it come on and turn off any time that I like.
That's pretty fancy. Yes. So then that way it's nice and done and hot when you get home instead of having to wait. It's already cooled down or it's not cooked. It's too tough or something. Yeah. Right. Now, where can you get a crock pot?
Oh, you can get crock pots at, again, any store, any department store that sells kitchen items, you'll get a crock pot.
I got mine at Walmart. Is that okay?
And a lot of times they're on sale because they're so common.
Yes. yes.
Now what you want here is that you can just do like one potato, or you can do 2 or 3. You can fill up any size pot that you have all the way if you're going to feed a lot of people.
Okay.
But like I say, you can even just do 1 potato in here.
Okay. Does it make a difference the length of time, how many potatoes you have in
A
there?
little bit, but before you start that, you clean your potato.
Yes.
And if it has bad spots, you can cut those out, but you do not poke your potato. All you do is scrub your potato and put it in the pot, and then you want to add some water. And you can just put, since there's only these 3 potatoes in here, I'm going to put about a half a cup of water in here. If you have a whole pot full, you might want to put 3/4 of a cup of water.
Want some more, or that's good?
No, that's good.
That's good.
And then this water helps to steam the potatoes.
Yes,
and so that makes the skin stay nice as it cooks. And so if you find that you've run out of water in there, then like if you have an extra fast pot, just in case it runs out, I have had times where I'll add a little bit more water, but I heat the water up first. I don't put cold water in a hot pot.
What happens?
You might have a crack pot.
Oh, really? Okay. It'd be kind of like putting your thing on top of the stove when it's hot. They say not to put, because they might crack too. Okay.
Hot and cold don't don't go together well.
Okay. Good.
All right. So now these sweet potatoes are going to take about 2 to 2.5 hours if you just have 1 of them.
Okay.
But if you fill up your pot, it might be more like 3 to 3.5 hours.
On high, you said.
On high.
Because it keeps the color better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, I'm learning here. I like this.
In fact, you can show them what some mashed potato looks like right there. You can see that it's a nice bright color.
Very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you cook that in the crock pot. That's really good. Man, that looks nice.
In fact, if you want to, I have recipes for like a maple almond sweet potato or
that sounds good.
where you peel them and cut them up and then add other things to them, and they come out delicious.
That's neat. Now, how would our friends at home know whether you have a fast crock pot or a super fast crock pot or a medium? You know, I mean,
I don't go super fast, but I do go extra.
Extra fast. That's what you call it. Okay.
Some of them I call them average pots. Some are fast pots, and some are extra fast pots.
That's the word, extra fast. Okay.
And the way that I tell is that I cook a pound of beans, like a pound of navy beans, and I put on low. I cook them with about 5.5 cups of water. And if they take 9 to 9.5 hours, it's an average pot. If they take 8 to 8.5 hours, it's a fast pot. If it takes 6.5 to 7 hours, it's extra fast.
Man, that's
neat. It's just helpful to know how fast your pot's going to cook.
You've done a lot of experimentation to learn all that.
Absolutely. I really have.
You spent years doing that, right?
Yeah. And so now we're going to look at the white potatoes.
Yes, I was just
Those are really common, and people eat a lot of white potatoes these days.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, for our friends at home, if you want to contact JoAnn, maybe you're interested in the cookbook or something, you have a website. What's your website for friends?
The website is familyhealthpub.com.
Familyhealthpub.com.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
A healthy pub.
Yeah, there you go. Not pub in the traditional sense. All right. These are our white potatoes.
These are the white potatoes, and again, you just clean your potatoes and do not poke them. If you poke the potatoes, it's going to oxidize. It's going to leave a little dark spot. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's just not going to look as pretty when you cut them open. And so we've got about 1 layer here, or a little bit more of potatoes in here. So you're going to add about a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of water, and turn your pot on high. Again, I like to cook white potatoes on high.
Okay.
Because again, it'll keep a better color. If you do them on low, then it's just going to be a little off-white, tannish type color.
They don't keep the white then.
Yeah.
They would turn
but this way they stay nice and white, and the skin stays nice and firm.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And well, let's see. If you do like 1 layer of potatoes, it's going to take about 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay. But you can do a whole pot full, even a 6-quart pot. You know, something big if you have a big group coming over.
Right.
And it's going to be usually about 3 to 3.5 hours.
Oh, okay. So you'd really have to use your, what do you call it, lamp appliance timer? Is that what you call it? Yeah.
In fact, like if let's say you're going to church and you're going to have company over, then if you need to, you set it to a timer. And I've fixed meals for groups, and I can have food on the table in 15 minutes.
Man, that's nice.
Yeah,
instead of having to wait around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that would bring back a lot of memories for me. My grandma, we used to always sometimes go over to her house for a Sabbath dinner and stuff, and she always had baked potato. It was like her staple. Every Sabbath dinner, we always had baked potatoes.
And it's easy, because then if you know that at the last minute that more people are coming over, you can just pull out your pot and put your potatoes in there, and it takes just a few minutes.
Yes. Now, what's this aluminum foil for? Is that anything
I
special?
have some foil here, and let's say that my lid doesn't quite fit on the top because I have so many potatoes in there.
Okay.
And so I'll use foil for a lid. And let's say, I mean, I've used this for a lot of different reasons. Like if I'm baking bread, like you can bake bread in a can. Let's say in a juice can, if you want a round loaf.
Are you serious?
But your lid won't fit, of course.
Yes.
And so then you would just cover the pot with a piece of foil, and 2 pieces if necessary, and just crimp down the edges, and it's ready to go.
Would you want anything like a rubber band or anything to hold it tight?
I've tried that before.
It doesn't work.
It does work, but it's just more work than you need to do. You know, foil works perfectly. You just tighten it down. In fact, the heavyweight foil, you know, that tightens up more, but this works fine.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And so I've had these, you know, sometimes people will lose their lids or crack their lids or pop their tops or, you know, most anything. So this is handy.
Yeah, all right. We have another type over here. We have a spaghetti squash, right? Now this is a bigger crock pot. Whoops, I got the cord here. There we go.
Yes, and now you can do all kinds of squash. And so this is a spaghetti squash.
Okay.
And they're just turn here. That the spaghetti squash, or any of your squashes, you just wash them and put them in here and no water. Because squash has more water to it, and so it'll actually have juice in there by the time it's done cooking.
Right.
And with a spaghetti squash, I like to just wash it off and put it in whole, you know, and put the lid on and bake it. And it takes maybe 3 hours, just depending. You can do it on high or on low, so it would take longer if you did it on low.
So it's not as important as, say, the sweet potatoes or the
color stays fine either
potato.
way.
Okay.
Yep. And if you have, let's say, butternut squash or acorn squash,
butternut's my favorite.
You can either do them whole, and again, like with butternut, a lot of times the lid won't fit on there, so you put the foil on. But if you don't want to do them whole and you want to cut them up, you put them in cut and take the seeds out, and then again, don't add any water
because it has the water.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That is
in fact,
neat.
Let's see, with a spaghetti squash, if you cook that, let's say if I'm using an average cooker on low, it's going to take about 7 to 8 hours, 7 or 7.5 hours.
Yeah. So
or
that's
if you
quite a while.
cook it on high, it's more like about 3.5 hours. But even this time of year, like if it's later in the season, or let's say a few months later, you know how squash, they get harder?
Oh, yeah.
And so it might take longer for this to get soft. So
wow. There's a lot of variables.
There
then.
are.
Yeah, you can't just say cut and dry, this is the way it is. And
Right.
Wow, okay. What other kind of stuff can you bake in here?
Well, there's a lot of different vegetables that you can do.
Okay.
I have a recipe for an eggplant, garlic eggplant dish,
sounds good.
And it is very good. Or one of my favorites is baked garlic. Oh, garlic is so good baked in the crock pot. It makes the house really smell good.
Yes.
Really?
I think so. I think if you're cooking onions or garlic, it makes the house smell good, and people come home and say, "Ooh, it smells like you're cooking," but maybe you're not doing anything. But the onion and garlic makes the smell, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you can do, I prefer to go with root vegetables if I'm going to add vegetables to like a soup or a stew. The more watery type things like green beans or peppers, they don't do as well for long cooking. But your carrots and your potatoes and your sweet potatoes, the more dense things work really well.
Work better. Now, when you say they don't do as well for long cooking, does that mean they turn to mush?
They lose their color, and sometimes the flavor becomes bitter. Like summer squash, I don't really care for that in the crock pot.
Yeah.
So there, you can do, of course, soups are really common. Beans and soups, you know, we all know about that.
Yeah, beans is what I do in the crock pot, so that's neat to learn.
But
other things.
I like to do like desserts like brownies or a date nut bar.
Now you're talking.
You can even do ice cream
in the crock pot. Ice cream in the crock pot?
Yeah.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And that's in your cookbook?
Yes.
I got to get your cookbook. Yeah, that's wonderful. In the crock pot. I can't believe that.
You know, and I could leave that as a teaser. I could be a little more, you know, honest about this. But
well, maybe you could be a little more honest. I'm waiting for that.
I make the sauce. I make the sauce in the crock pot. I cook. It's something that I cook.
Okay.
And then I put it like in an ice cream freezer.
Okay, because I'm thinking, I mean, the crock pot heats things up, and you'd have really runny ice cream or something. So, So, okay.
Yeah, and
wow.
you can make loaves like an oat loaf, tofu loaf. There's just endless. You can take your favorite recipes, and you can adapt most any of your favorite recipes. Just cut down on the liquid is a major thing. Cut down on the liquid part, and you can even put an insert in here. Let's say you take a cake pan, an 8-inch round cake pan, and that'll fit in your bigger pots, and you can bake in that.
Good. Well, that's exciting. I've learned a lot of stuff. In just a few moments, friends, we will be back to show you the final products, our baked potato bar, and what it looks like.
We hope you've enjoyed today's program with JoAnn Rachor. Now let's take a moment to review our fast cooking in slow cooker potato bar recipes. Our Tasty Sesame Topping has 1 cup of toasted sesame seeds, 1/4 cup yeast flakes, 1 teaspoon onion powder, 1 teaspoon salt, and 1/2 teaspoon garlic powder. For our tofu sour cream, you'll need 1 box of Mori New Tofu Firm, 1/3 cup of raw cashews, 1/3 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 teaspoon onion powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. For the quick corn sauce, you'll need 1 can whole corn with juice, 1/4 cup coconut, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If you would like to contact JoAnn Rachor, please call 3ABN at 800-752-3226 for more information. Or you can contact us at 3ABN, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62859. That phone number again is 800-752-3226. Now, let's take a look at our finished recipes with JoAnn.
Welcome back, friends. We're here with all this really good food, JoAnn, that we've made in the crock pot.
That's
and
right.
then the blender, too.
That's true. Why
Why don't you show us what we made today?
Okay, well, let's start off with our baked potato that we did in the crock pot, and then we put some gravy on here and some vegetables. And then our next one was our spaghetti squash with the tofu sour cream and the sesame seed topping.
Nice.
Then we have the baked potato with the sour cream again, and this is some burger. Like you could use a commercial burger like a Boca Burger, Morning Star, or a homemade burger with olives. And then lastly, well, we've got our sweet potato with the quick corn sauce, and this just shows what the spaghetti squash looks like.
Ooh, it looks good. With all that cilantro on it, too. I like the garnish. Yeah, well, thank you for coming, JoAnn, and sharing your talents, and I learned so much.
Good.
I hope our friends at home, I hope you guys learned as much as we did about cooking in a slow cooker and the different things. We hope that you had a good time, enjoy these recipes, and until we see you next time, may God richly bless you and keep you.